This person says, I didn't care for you, and then I researched you for myself. Thank you for what you are doing. May Yahweh protect you, your family, and the truth. I would love for you to dig into Africans being the true Israelites. I mean, I watched that documentary. I just didn't see any proof that was presented there. Like, it was somebody that was making musings about it, but they didn't actually present any concrete proof. And so, yeah, I appreciate your comment. I have not ever looked into that, to be completely honest with you. And like I said, I don't know my family history outside of knowing my grandma came from St. Thomas. My grandfather has one grandmother who was Native American Cherokee from North Carolina. But I would love to know my family history. I think we all have a right to know where we come from, information. And so I want to jump right back into that discussion that we were having, really about spiritualism. And I'm going to use not a current event, but a recent current event that happened a couple of years ago. You will remember this because I think it might have been the craziest moment from 2022. So Kyrie Irving, at the time, he still might be a basketball player for the Brooklyn Nets, tweeted a link to a documentary, absent commentary. He didn't tweet this and say, I agree with this. He didn't tweet this and say, like, I disagree with this. He just tweeted a link to a readily available documentary that was on Amazon, and he said nothing. And the next thing you knew, he was a mainstream story, and he was at risk of losing his job as a basketball player. And the title of the documentary was From Hebrews, to Negroes. And if he had just tweeted it and the media didn't react with such insanity, probably no one would have watched it. I'm serious. Like, it was a nothing thing, but they made such a big deal out of it that I remember watching the situation go down and going, okay, what is in this documentary that people are freaking out so much that the NBA has given him, you'll recall this, a list of 6 demands, a list of 6 action items that he must complete in order to return to the franchise, okay? Absurd. Do you remember this headline that was going on? This is what Kyrie Irving must do to get his life back for having tweeted out a link to a documentary that's available on Amazon. Not Jeff Bezos, but Kyrie Irving is at fault, not Jeff Bezos for making it readily available on Amazon. The first set of things that he had to do, the first thing he had to do was he had to issue an apology for posting a link to the movie, condemn the harmful and false content, and make it clear that he does not have anti-Jewish beliefs. Secondly, he had to complete the anti-hate causes that the Irving and the Nets and the ADL, I'll keep that topic, we're going to talk about more of the ADL today, agreed upon in their joint release, which included a $500,000 donation toward causes and organizations that work to eradicate hate and intolerance in communities. He was then told he had to complete sensitivity training created by the Nets. He was then told he had to complete anti-Semitic, anti-hate training designed by the Nets, and meet with representatives from the ADL as well as Jewish community leaders in Brooklyn. And the last one was after completing steps 1 through 5, he had to meet with the owner of the Nets, Joe Tsai, and lead franchise officials and demonstrate the lessons that he learned. Okay, so this was just like a whipping, a public whipping. It made entirely no sense. And I don't think he actually ended up doing any of that, because then there was outrage and outcry, rightfully so, from the Black community going, what are you doing right now? What did he do that was so wrong? And of course, because of the way my brain works, when I see the media overreact, I just go, what's in this documentary? I mean, I think that's called the Streisand effect. Like, when you go so crazy about something that people wouldn't have noticed, then suddenly go, okay, well, what am I not supposed to see in this documentary? And I, of course, instantly watched it. And it was, by the way, very poorly put together, which is why it made it even crazier. It seemed like a very budget film that was put together. It looks almost like a PowerPoint, to be honest. And I remember watching this going, how could this documentary have caused this much craziness in the media? And then I realized that the point of the documentary that it was making that upset, and this is why the ADL got involved, was the documentary makers, that is, were alleging that the current Jewish people that are in Israel are not, in fact, biblical Jews, and instead that the people that were brought over in the transatlantic slave trade from Africa to America were the original Hebrews, okay? So parking aside whether or not you agree with that, I have obviously no idea. How strange is it that that would cause that sort of a reaction? I mean, we live in a time where a man can say he's a woman and a woman can say that she's a man. You can quite literally wake up and pick your gender and pick your species, and people will be affectionate towards you. They feel so bad for you. They have sympathy. It's like we must do more to support these communities. They're not confused as who they are on the inside. But for Kyrie Irving, there was no grace. It was like, no, this is so wrong, and you're going to lose your entire life for even exploring that idea. What it led me to think was, it is quite sad when you consider that so many of us have no idea where we come from. Like, that to me was the bigger point, that there are so many people on this planet who have no idea where they come from. I'm one of them. I can't go back beyond a couple of generations. And the reason for that is because of war. It's because of slavery. It's because of large human trafficking efforts that take place. And typically it's because, well, how does it happen? Because you should know. We should be able to say exactly which tribe we all came from in the Bible, because you would just think your relative then tells their descendant and tells their descendant and tells their descendant forever. And we could just look at our family history and go, yeah, my great, all the way going back Bible, this was us. But we can't do that, because you have situations where like a bomb is dropped, and like one kid survives. He doesn't even have a memory of his father or his mother. You have people that were separated, as African Americans were when they were first brought over from Africa. Black Americans separated from their families, being traded all across, quite literally no memory. I mean, I have part in my family. My grandfather's grandmother was fully Native American. I wish I could learn more about the Cherokee Native Americans, and her given name, because they made them change their names in North Carolina, was like Eliza, my grandfather's grandmother. I know nothing about her. And there's something about that that's spiritually very wrong. And like I said, everybody across the world has gone through this. There's something that puts us in a very vulnerable state when we don't know where we come from. Now, let's talk about Wikipedia. That's just one example. Wikipedia virtually exists not to actually tell you anything historically, but to obscure things historically. By like the slight removal of certain facts, they are able to realize that most people don't have a memory of things that have happened, let's call it even 50 years ago. And all they have to do is keep updating entries and wipe away a few things, and they can give you an entirely new narrative. And it has been long understood that the ADL has been effectively running, that's why I bring up the ADL again, handing Kyrie these demands. They've been running Wikipedia so much that now Wikipedia finds it offensive. So this is a recent article in Haaretz, that's an Israel-based newspaper, where they are saying the ADL faces a Wikipedia ban over reliability concerns on Israel and anti-Semitism. The ADL no longer appears to adhere to a serious, mainstream, and intellectually cogent definition of anti-Semitism. So what they're basically saying is like they're just putting their feelings in there, and they're saying a lot of stuff. But I think it's funny that the Wikipedia is saying that just recently happened. No, it's always been that way. And I gave you that example yesterday. If we knew the history of the ADL, if we could learn that on Wikipedia, no one would support the ADL, because the ADL, factually speaking, was founded to protect a pedophile named Leo Frank. This is very relevant. And by the way, I had a wonderful discussion yesterday with this Jewish PhD, a professor and a writer named David Bashvikin on Twitter, because he heard about my episode talking about Sabbatianism, and I guess he assumed that I was going to say like, this is what Jews worship, and I was actually saying the exact opposite. So I messaged him privately on Twitter, and we had this wonderful back forth speaking about how Jewish people and Christians actually need to unite and to do the research and to root out these satanic people that have infiltrated both of our faiths, including the Muslim, the Islamic faith as well. There has been an infiltration. And so we were having this back forth, and I was speaking to him about these Frankists and how they literally came to America, and the evidence of that is everywhere. And particularly, yes, this is how the ADL was born. They were born of B'nai B'rith. B'nai B'rith was this Freemason chapter that was based in Atlanta, and Leo Frank was the president of that chapter. He was incredibly wealthy. He ran a local pencil factory. During Passover of 1913, he viciously raped and murdered a young Catholic girl named Mary Fagan. Okay? Now, this I am bringing up again because this is something that if you are Jewish and you're interested in history, this is something that you could read a book on, and I think that it would plant a seed for you, that there are people that are purporting to be Jewish that are lying to you. This person says, I didn't care for you, and then I researched you for myself. Thank you for what you are doing. May Yahweh protect you, your family, and the truth. I would love for you to dig into Africans being the true Israelites. I mean, I watched that documentary. I just didn't see any proof that was presented there. Like, it was somebody that was making musings about it, but they didn't actually present any concrete proof. And so, yeah, I appreciate your comment. I have not ever looked into that, to be completely honest with you. And like I said, I don't know my family history outside of knowing my grandma came from St. Thomas. My grandfather has one grandmother who was Native American Cherokee from North Carolina. But I would love to know my family history. I think we all have a right to know where we come from.
We will return to the land of Israel, and we visit Judah's royal city of Lachish, where in 701 BC, King Sennacherib led his massive army against Judah's fortified city of Lachish. After King Sennacherib conquered the city of Lachish, a stone monument was made to commemorate the defeat of this city of Judah. And on this stone relief, we find depictions of what occurred on that fateful day. We can see Assyrians taking loot from the royal city, carrying away various artifacts for reward. We also find detailed depictions of the chosen, set-apart people of Judah. And when we look close, we find the face of the Negro. The city of Lachish also contained a mass gravesite in which excavators recovered roughly 695 skulls. This leads us to our sixth proof, the skulls of Judah in the royal city. As the following reference reads, and it reads, the very first report on the Lachish skulls included a thorough examination of pathology, metrics, artificial deformation, and epigenetic affinity. Utilizing craniometrics, Risden in 1939 concluded that the group was very similar to dynastic Egyptian material. In fact, he stated that the entire population was of foreign origin, representing descendants of a group derived primarily from Upper Egypt. This conclusion was subsequently supported by a craniometric study by Musgrave and Owens in 1981. Keita in 1988 likewise examined the skulls metrically, omitting those that were either artificially deformed, female, warped, split, or juvenile, using only those measurements that he believed were consistent population discriminators. He concluded that the group was fairly heterogeneous, having close relationships to North African, Egyptian, and Nubian groups, thus lending support to the Egypto-Nubian presence. Researchers go on to suggest that these Nubians weren't Egyptian foreigners at all. They suggested that they were native to the region.